Well, guys, welcome back to Young Americans Abroad. And this week we have somewhat of a special episode. And Pat, it's a special week because, a certain team is back finally playing a game.
Yeah, and I think that team is the USMNT, I believe, Austin. So, yeah, we got a lot of excitement to talk about. So we really had to, cater and make this special episode for you guys and the fans and really kind of just dissect everything about the roster drop and release and kind of, gather our thoughts too and see, with all these, potential newly caps and players, this full European-based roster plus Leggett, Austin.
And Johnny, can't forget Johnny.
And that's right, and Johnny, can't forget Johnny. So we have a lot to get into with all those players.
Yeah, and it's really fun, like you said, a lot of young players, a lot of uncapped players. So that means a lot of opportunities, and it's just fun. It seems more upbeat. With all the moves that happened this summer, it seems to really excite. It has excited at least this core of players, and also the fan base. There's a lot of people excited to watch these two games this week against Wales and Panama. And it's fun. It feels good to talk about the USMNT again, which is something you haven't
absolutely, Austin.
Say.
And it's long overdue. Just since COVID has happened, and we haven't seen the boys since the end of January and February. This just seems long awaited, and with all, like you said, the movement that's happened in between and what we've covered here, on the show, to finally see it, kind of slowly come to fruition here. And I know you mentioned it too. We were talking off camera with the late Olympics, but all these friendlies as well and qualifiers. There's a lot to look forward to now here.
Yeah, you said it. Olympics. We thought that was going to happen this past summer. COVID hit, and now it looks like next summer. But we'll have to, I guess, wait and see. But yeah, World Cup qualifiers are coming around. I think we have one early on in 2021, or the first set of qualifiers early on in 2021. So this is a pretty big camp for multiple reasons. And for that reason today, we're going to, spend most of the time talking about that. We will finish today's episode with kind of a longer version of Quick Kicks just to give you guys a recap of what happened this weekend. But I think with that being said, Pat, I think, what time is it?
I think it's time to get into this week's episode.
So to start today, we got to talk about the goalkeepers first. And, there was three that were called up to this roster, the first being Zach Steffen, then you got Ethan Horvath, and finally Chituro Odunze. So, a kind of interesting group of goalkeepers. Two of them I feel like we knew right off the bat, Pat, they're going to be on this roster since it's, like you said, a fully European roster or fully abroad roster. So you knew that Zach Steffen was going to be on this roster. Ethan Horvath was pretty much a shoo-in with that category being made or that distinction being made. But that third spot, Pat, Chituro Odunze, that's a player who we watched at the U17 World Cup last year, had some really good performances, has a really big frame, but definitely kind of a surprise to this camp.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a surprise. I know there's a few other players in that, I guess kind of the Premier League youth system. I know we're talking about Fulham, Damian Loss, but Odunze, it's great to see him there in the mix. And what's interesting too, Austin, I thought about some of these, bigger clubs, obviously Zach Steffen with Manchester City, he's not really getting the consistent game time that we saw him in the past, over in Germany earlier. So it'll be kind of intriguing to see, even Horvath hasn't had that much of a game time. So that's kind of intriguing to me.
Yeah, and we did see, Horvath recently in the Champions League when he made that cameo for them with when Mingele was out, I believe with COVID, right?
That's right.
15 days or something.
The emotional reaction at the end.
Yeah, and what it meant to him to finally be back on the pitch and get his feet back under him, get some confidence in him. So, I think, that'll be interesting to watch. I think Zach Steffen has to be the undisputed starter in this camp. Horvath hasn't had much run with Greg Berhalter. I think you're going to see Zach for both games. And, I can't wait to see him.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him either, Austin. I was just going to quickly mention and just the fact that he is, and not to say, on my earlier point, where he's not getting that game time, but he is under Pep. He's at one of the best teams in the world, able to get in some of the other kind of EFL and FA Cup, those kind of tournaments, which is great. in being a number two, where he is learning a lot. So I think that, you'll kind of see maybe some of the the Pep's teams and playing out of the back, being able to calmly distribute the ball. When some of the U.S. defenders might play some back passes to him and put under pressure. I think we'll see that element of his game probably significantly improve, especially being day in and day out at Man City.
Yeah, and that's the whole thought of him staying at Man City, right? Is to get that that skill honed a bit more, because we have seen in the past some games at Dusseldorf, even some of the USMNT friendlies, I believe against Mexico,
right?
That bad sequence playing out of the back, and Zach Steffen's been partly to blame for some of these mistakes we've seen. So yeah, I hope we see that, and yeah, I think it's time now to move on to the defenders. What do you say, Pat? Who do we got in that group?
That's right. So we have 7 here, Austin. So we have John Brooks over at Wolfsburg. We have Reggie Cannon with Boa Vista there. We also have Serginho Dest, the Barcelona man. Big one. Matt Miazga over at Anderlecht. We also have Tim Reen, a Fulham, part of Fulham America there. Chris Richards over at Bayern Munich. And we also have another Fulham America with Anthony Robinson. So there's a lot to talk about there, Austin. I think, John Brooks being that figurehead centrally there, maybe the left center back side, has really performed well. It looks like, I think I saw an article with the sporting director there over in Wolfsburg. Obviously, they're not doing as great as they would like, but overall, apparently Brooks has been very strong the past few weeks to start this season. So nice to see him, and Miazga will be interesting too, Austin. Starting in and out here with Anderlecht on loan, that Chelsea loan army. So I think for the central, part of the defense, it's looking pretty strong, European based, but I'm very intrigued to see how the outside, works with the new wave and the new fullback era here, where they're, flying up the pitch and getting involved with the offense, as we have Reggie Cannon now with that move, as well as, you have, Serginho Dest at Barcelona. So be interesting to kind of see him, play different positions, and can't leave out Chris Richards, Austin. So want to get your thoughts here.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, like you said, we have these exciting fullbacks now finally, and we've seen them in the past and we've seen them get exposed at times. But you're talking about almost a full year since we've played any games with them in the fold. So I'm really curious to see kind of how they've grown, because at the club level, you've seen Anthony Robinson make the step up to Premier League and is doing really well at the moment, starting pretty much every game for Fulham. And then, like you said, Reggie Cannon went over to Boa Vista and has started every game for them as well. So, yeah, not to mention Serginho Dest went to Barcelona. So I think, yeah, just seeing them on the field again and being more confident, being further along in their progression, yeah, I can't wait to see that. And like you said, Chris Richards, this is the first time we've seen him in a USMNT camp. And after he made his Bayern debut, there's some positive things to take from that debut and some negative things as well. But just seeing him in a camp really excites me. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think so important what you just said, Austin, is, it has been, a year or a while since we have seen them and how they've developed. And like you said, all these moves, because, even Chris Richards just bumping up now to Bayern Munich. And obviously he was more, with the T2 team and way more significantly in the past there, as well as even a player like, Miazga, who's, a little bit more senior, but still playing for, a really top team in Belgium and really, performing and dominating again, which is great. So they've had a lot of time to improve. And yeah, I'm just really excited because, again, I think we know what John Brooks is capable of when he's healthy. Fingers crossed. I hope I didn't just jinx him, Austin. But I think John Brooks, being able to really just use his athleticism and his ability to be calm and, play the ball forward and, be a little bit, not even to say adventurous, but just calmly play the ball up, when we're trying to break out. And yeah, just to kind of see maybe even Richard is slotted alongside him to learn with him there, I think would be intriguing to me.
Yeah, he by far, I'm maybe more impartial to the Bundesliga and the players that play in that league, just because that's really the league I follow the most. But when John Brooks is on his game, he is a very good center back. So I think, yeah, if we can get that version of him, not just for this camp and these friendlies, but for World Cup qualifying, some of the bigger friendlies we play, I really think you're gonna fall back in love with him, so to speak, because it's been a little while since we've really gotten to kind of see him consistently and come to rely on him, mostly due to injury. So it's not his fault or anything like that. But yeah, that's exciting. The one thing I did want to mention, Pat, before we move on to the midfielders, is some snubs. So I know there was a few players who some people on Twitter and also ourselves from looking at all these players that are playing abroad that thought maybe they should be in this camp in consideration for the team. Who would be kind of some of your biggest snubs from this position group, the defenders?
Right. I think first comes to mind is DeAndre Yedlin. Just kind of the I can't even think of the right word, but just kind of stalled, I guess, almost at Newcastle, and just not a great situation. I think he really needs to move, whether it is a few other teams interested in Europe or even MLS, but he just needs a change of scenery to get back to his top form. He's really, I guess the word is stagnated, and you've seen some fierce competition now, Austin. We have all these fullbacks, Can and Dest, name a few more, but he's really fallen down the pecking order. Some of these other guys that are coming right into the early 20s and kind of that sweet spot for the fullbacks. So that's a player I wanted to give a shout out for a snub.
Yeah, that's a great one. I think, he's probably the biggest name that got snubbed off this roster. There's a lot of different opinions out on him, whether he's all pace and no technique or, somewhere in between. But yeah, I definitely think that was surprising in my opinion. Another player, or two players, I would say, two center backs I want to mention is Eric Palmer-Brown, who's playing really well in Austria right now, getting consistent minutes, finally back with the club for a second year, which it seems like has been a while now with all the loans he's made. And then also CCV, who, is another player who's had his fair share of loans, but really came on for Luton Town at the end of last year, and now is at a place in Bournemouth where I believe he's working for, playing for a manager that he had at one of his previous clubs he got loaned to. So yeah, those were two players that, I don't know if they really deserve to be on this roster over any of the other center backs, but those were two that, definitely deserve a look and, maybe in the future.
Yeah, I think, like you said, they're kind of right on the fringe there. And also a quick shout to Shaq Moore, who's found himself in the starting lineup with Tenerife, which is great.
Okay.
But again, still time will tell. I think maybe these players can take this as motivation to, make the next camp. So I still think they're knocking in the door and there's plenty of options there. So a lot of excitement.
Yeah, for sure. And, like you said, this is just one camp. It's two friendlies. I know this is the first camp in a while, but that definitely, the perspective needs to be put there. So let's move on to the midfielders. So looking at that, it's a group of six, pretty big names, Pat. And the first on that list is Tyler Adams, at Leipzig. We have Johnny Cardoso from Internacional in Brazil, who, we're really excited about seeing for the first time. We have Richie Ledesma at PSV. We have Weston McKennie at Juve. Yunus Musa. So, we'll talk about him in a little bit more detail here lately. But Valencia, English, youth academy player. And someone that we're really excited about. And then we have Owen Otasawi. So another player who has some ties to England, some other nations that we're also getting in this camp, which is really exciting. So, yeah, I guess, Pat, who out of that group of star-studded players really excites you the most?
Oh, it's so hard to pick, Austin. I mean, you could still go with the, kind of, I would almost say not even the more senior, but, you have Adams and McKennie and how Adams has really just transformed and consistently improved with Leipzig, being a key focal point, that quarterback position we always talk about. But also Weston with the Juve move is really, Juve move is really impressive there. And I'm still trying to correct that, Austin. But surprisingly, I want to, quickly touch on, I think, is Johnny, our boy Johnny Cardoso there over with Internacional. I think he's a really unique player. I would almost even maybe think of, a dark horse that's just going to come out, full blaze, running here and really kind of run the show and just be that aggressor and also link play. And I think he's, has that creativity, playing in Brazil to really make an impact. So I'm excited about him, Austin.
Yeah, all good picks. The other player that I'm really excited about is Yunus Musa. So this is a player that started the season off very hot for Valencia, 17 at the moment, so crazy young, like pretty much Gio Reyna 2.0.
Unreal, Austin.
Yeah, it's unreal that we have him in a camp. The only tie he has to America is his mom, I guess, gave birth in America when she was on vacation. So, hey, we'll take it. But yeah, so that's the one player that really excites me out of this group. And I'm just really interested to see kind of how Greg Berhalter uses him. We hope he gets game time. I think if he doesn't, I know we'll be both disappointed, and I think a lot of other people will be too. But right now he's playing on the right for Valencia, kind of as a winger, and really getting forward. But it sounds like Greg Berhalter sees him as more of like a number 8, a box-to-box midfielder. And I think with the qualities he has and the experience he has at that position at some of the lower levels, whether that's with England or in Valencia's academy, I think he could make a really good number 8. He's got that speed that you need to get forward and get back to defend. He's a very aggressive player. That's the one thing I've noticed from all the highlights I've been able to see at Valencia. He's not afraid to kind of dive into a tackle or take a player on and get physical with them, trying to go by them. And I just like his mentality. He looks like a hungry teenager who's trying to make a name for himself. So anytime we can get one with the caliber, I guess the resume that he has at 17 years old into our camp and our program, I think that's really exciting. So.
Yeah, and I think, Austin, you have to almost, if you're Greg, you have to get him some game time here, just because, he has, some of those other, national teams. Maybe he's getting on the radar of others now, especially, being called up, for the friendlies here with the U.S. So it'll be kind of intriguing how that develops. But like you said, can't, think too far in the future. Just got to think of what we have here presently. And again, I think just, Musa's, like you said, his athleticism and his speed, his tenacity are just such great qualities to have. Whether it's being that box type of role or, as well, kind of intertwining, switching out, getting on the wing as well. It'll be very exciting to see, how the U.S. is set up and how, Musa fits into the scheme of what Berhalter's bringing to the tables in terms of formation and tactics.
Yeah, for sure. Before we move on to attackers, I did want to pose you a question, Pat. So, a lot of these players are new to the fold. I think Owen Adesawi out of this group was probably the one that kind of, we were most surprised to see. I know there's a lot of surprises on this roster. Where do you see him kind of fitting in to this team? Obviously, it's for 2 games. He may not get minutes. We'll have to wait and see. But he's played center back in the past. It looks like he's a midfielder on this roster. I guess what excites you about him and kind of where do you see him going forward with this team?
Yeah, that's an intriguing topic, Austin, just because, does he play as that kind of deeper midfielder as an Adams type of role? We've seen at Leipzig. Do we kind of, shift him around in the diamond there if they are playing a certain 4-3-3, depending on the formation? I think he has all those, great defensive qualities. And again, somebody that's just very, physical and athletic that can, kind of, be that enforcer and stop everything at the back, but also, slowly build up play. So I want to get your thoughts too, but I wonder if he kind of can learn, from Tyler there.
Yeah, well, they're 2 very different players. So, Owen Adesawi is a lot bigger and kind of longer. And it seems like he kind of, Tyler's very mobile. I know he plays a pretty deep lying 6, at least for Leipzig he has this season. But it just seems like, Owen Adesawi doesn't, get around the field as much as Tyler. And I think that's, more a credit to Tyler and just, the type of stamina he has. So,
right.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see them kind of learn from each other and, Owen learning from Tyler more than Tyler learning from Owen. But I'm just not sold yet on Owen as a midfielder. I know that's, the position he's played a lot. And I know in past camps he's played as a center back for us. So personally, I'd like to see him, get some time at center back just because I feel like that's where he's going to play for the U20s. So I was just curious. I know that that's not really what he's done in the past, but I kind of like his upside more just from his frame and some of the play I've seen from him, like you said, is very physical and aggressive. But I was just kind of interested to see, what he can offer this camp and if he gets game time. I think, there's going to be some players that won't. So we'll have to wait and see. Some players, Pat, before we move on real quick, that got snubbed. So the one I had on my list was Julian Green. So if you don't know, Julian Green's been on a tear to start the season for Greuther Fürth in the 2 Bundesliga. Really has been their best player and one of the better players in the 2 Bundesliga. I think it was on, what was it, SofaScore or one of the
I think you're right.
Websites that tracks player performance, and he was in the top 10 or maybe it was 11th. It was right around the top 10, in terms of ratings for the 2 Bundesliga. So that's one player that, we've seen a lot of, and, we understand that he has certain limitations, but it's a player that continues to improve. And it's a player that, we know has qualities that even Bayern Munich saw in him and believed in at one point in time. So that was a player that I was a little disappointed not to see. Pat, do you have one other player?
Yeah, and it's a player we talked about a while here with Derby County and Dwayne Holmes. So just again, somebody I would say we put him in the snub because we have seen him, his form, at his best, where he's had that meteoric rise and even some great performances there. When Lampard was there and Mason Mount back there with Derby in their run. But yeah, again, we've seen Dwayne just make an impact, goals and assists, and really get connected and use that speed and athleticism. Another really mobile player, Austin. But unfortunately, had some injuries, marred by some injuries, and hasn't really seen the form that we all came to know and love in the past. So hopefully, he can kind of regain that. But it's been a little bit of a struggle here to start the season.
Yeah, that is the one player that has kind of taken a little bit of a dip in form so far this season. But definitely, if he can get back to that form that we saw, he would. Yeah, I think he'd be a big asset, Pat. I think we both last year were kind of hoping he'd make a roster at some point. That he was in, because it was fun watching him. Like we would literally watch their games on what was it? ESPN Plus has championship games, so we would. Yeah, it was fun watching them. But so now let's move on to attackers. And Pat, I'm going to throw it to you to kind of introduce us to them.
That's right, Austin. We have quite a few here. So starting here with Conrad De La Fuente there. We also have Nicholas Gioacchini over with Con. Christian Pulisic, nice to see him here, as well as Uli Yanez. And we also have, Gio Reyna with Dortmund. Really excited to see him. We'll talk about that, shortly here, as well as Sebastian Lletget, a last-minute change here for Josh Sargent. Unfortunately, with COVID going on, some of the clubs are being, cautious here. And then to round out, we also are including Sebastian Soto from Telstar and Timo or Tim Weah. So it's a lot of names and a lot of excitement, Austin. Versatile on the wings there, and some of those number 9s. So we'll kind of get into it now and discuss.
Yeah, and it's a really exciting group. I think dynamic, like you said, versatile. There's a lot of different words I feel like you could use to describe players. But I think, like you said, Gio Reyna is the big one. We'll finally get to see him in a USMNT camp. It feels like, we've been talking about it for a while. I feel like we've gotten over the fact that, that debate we used to have with Pulisic, whether he was good enough to start games for us. If Gio Reyna is not starting against Wales, I feel like I'm going to have a pretty big issue with that. So I think that's something that, Christian Pulisic sounds like he's going to be in this camp. I know there was a lot of injury concerns from Chelsea's point of view with him the past few weeks, where he, went out in the warm-up of that one game several weeks ago. But it sounds like he's going to be in this camp. I don't know if we'll see him play, Pat. What do you think? Do you think we'll actually see game time from Pulisic, or is he kind of just in this camp to help mentor the young guys?
Yeah, I think it's the latter of those two, where he's just in the camp to help mentor and be there as part of this new era, new wave. Just especially with not even getting going at Chelsea with some of these injuries and just the concerns there. I think especially I would even say I'm almost surprised that Chelsea let him go there. But again, I think it's just crucial for him to be around the guys in the locker room and training camp during this camp here. To really, again, take some players under his wing and just, again, he's been with the program for a while now, Austin, you could say, almost that veteran, especially with this group. So, I think that's kind of where he's at there. But, just to kind of move and talk about some other players here, I think what's really intriguing, and a player we've been talking about now here and there, is, again, Nick Gioacchini. I want to get that pronunciation correct there. I know, I apologize, I've been saying that incorrectly. So again, the Con striker has played a very unique role. Austin, it could be that number 9, especially with Sargent not there, but he also has that ability, very athletic striker where he can also kind of play on the wings, and we've seen him, playing the flanks as well. So again, he's very creative, unique, can kind of hold up the ball, have these little flicks and neat passes to get the counters going. Again, I compare everything to Liverpool, but almost, some of the Firmino-esque plays and styles, but just a really intelligent player where he's developing in his runs. And again, it's just kind of hard to put him in a place. Is he a true poacher, or is he more, somebody that can kind of, drop deeper? So that's just a player I want to, give a shout quickly here.
Yeah, that's a good one. The thing I like about him too is he's got a lot of confidence too. It feels like he went to France from, what was it, DC United just only a few years ago, and has really settled in, hit the ground running, and now is a pretty important player for Con. So that's a great shout. I like the two wingers, the two U20 wingers that are in this camp, who have both made pretty good strides this year. The one being Conrad de la Fuente, who now is pretty much a Barcelona first-team player with Serginho Dest, or at least that's what it sounds like. And Ansu Fati just got injured, so we may see him finally making his debut here, which would be pretty cool. And then you got YAAs. So two really dynamic, technical players on the wings, and I think they're both in pretty good club situations at the moment. Uli's not gotten the amount of game time we thought he would get at Heerenveen, but definitely, I think it's better for him to be in the Eredivisie than sitting, in Wolfsburg's academy, trying to play, 2 Wolfsburg 2 games on the weekend. But I'm really excited to see them. I think if they get game time in this camp, I really think they're going to shine, and I think you're going to see some bright play from them. So those are my two to watch, I guess.
I like the shouts there, the U20s there. And Austin, just a really intriguing too with, can't leave out here, we have Sebastian Soto, coming on, uncapped. It was that Chile situation and kind of still curious there. So we'll kind of see and monitor that situation. But again, he's a player that, has started, not a full-fledged starter there, but coming on, making appearances, I think a few in the second half with Telstar, and it's just a goal-scoring machine, Austin. Obviously there's a second division there, there's the Eredivisie, but it is great to see, that he just has that poacher, that goal-scoring mentality that you really need in a striker. So I still think he's got a lot of promise, with that Norwich move, getting loaned out here. He has a lot to prove, and so that's another player too, along with, Timo Weah here. In a very interesting situation with club Austin, not getting that, consistent game time. You can see him, battling with, I think, Dave and a few other players there, and they're, I believe, still in second, Austin in France, so second or third.
Yeah, they're doing well.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well. So it'll be kind of interesting to see, with those long sustained injuries that he's had as well over the course. It's been a long time since we've seen him with the U.S. national team. So. Be kind of curious to see, who's rotated it in, what the formation is.
Yeah, that's a really good point. With Christian Pulisic being out, this attacker group is kind of wide open. Josh Sargent as well, with him not being in this camp, it really kind of leaves those spots up top wide open. So I think that's one of the points we want to get to later on. So I think I'll leave that for there. But looking again at snubs for this position group, I think the big one that comes to my mind, especially when Josh Sargent went out, was Andrea Novakovic. This is a player that plays for Frosinone over in Serie B. Was just voted, I believe, their player of the month for it might have been September. It was either September or October, but he's really a player that kind of came into his own in the second part of the season last year for Frosinone. Was really kind of the striker they relied on at the end of the season to score for them. And I think it was just a really successful season in Italy. And, again, I don't think he necessarily warranted a call up over Nick and Sebastian or even Josh. But when Josh was ruled out, he was the one player in my mind that I thought deserved, at least a look, as an injury substitute. But I know, Pat, we have a few more players. So who do you have on your list?
Yeah, that's right. We also have, Haji Wright. So he has just come onto the scene here, Austin, and just, kind of almost reinventing his career. And honestly, I have to really give him credit because he was starting to, I thought he was kind of slipping through the cracks and fading, but he's really, persevered and shown that he has some, elite skill there, playing first division football there. And really just, again, one of the top goal scorers in the entire, league and just a force to be reckoned with. Some of his, you could see some of the technical skill, but just the strength and, the size that he has is really impressive. So nice to see him putting some, goals in the back of the net.
Yeah, that's a good shout. And the other one too, we had Aaron Johansson. So if you don't know, Aaron Johansson is really a veteran of the USMNT, went to the 2014 World Cup, and, has been on several rosters over the years, has scored some good goals for us, but, really just his career has been marred by injuries. So it's really unfortunate, but he's really come on, Pat, in Sweden ever since that move to Hammarby and is become, the striker we thought he could be at Werder Bremen. So I think, he was someone who warranted a look. Personally, me, this is me speaking, Pat. This isn't this isn't us speaking, but right. I think he's, I just find it tough to really put a lot of stock in him at the moment, with that injury history. It'd be nice to rely on him for a whole World Cup qualifying cycle. But, I think if we're being honest, that might be too premature. So I think he's someone that, if he can stay healthy and prove that those injury concerns are behind him, whether that's a different ways playing, different ways training, different ways rehabbing. I think then he can be an asset to us in qualifying and kind of be that alternate striker. Because you got to think Josh Sargent's really going to be the guy for our team going forward. But that was one that I thought warranted a look. And then you had another YAA, Pat, Emmanuel Sabi, who has really taken to life again, kind of like Haji Wright has for his club in Denmark. But Emmanuel Sabi's done pretty similarly with Odense Bold Club after making the move from Hobro. So not as many goals scored, but has definitely been a big presence for that team. And it's, a team that's consistently towards the top of the table in Denmark. So yeah, I feel like we got what?
Yeah, I think we have a few more. There's a few, a plethora here, Austin, for the attackers, and can't leave out Tyler Boyd, over there in Turkish Besiktas, and somebody again that had that New Zealand time, brought him over, and he had some great moments there. I believe, Austin, was it back in the Gold Cup? My memory is kind of escaping me there.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? He got called up for the Gold Cup, played a lot in those first few group stage games, and then something happened and he didn't really see the field much later on. But yeah, he's someone that looked good when we saw him.
Oh yeah,
he was limited in some of the things he could do, but I thought he was gonna do pretty well at Besiktas. And now what's his club situation?
Yeah, it's a tough situation right now, Austin, because again, like you said, he had that ability to just go one-on-one with players. And he did lose it a few times, lose the ball, but you could see when he has the confidence to go one-on-one, some great things can happen, but you could see him shying away a little bit, especially here, just at a tough situation. And you're seeing a few players now come through Besiktas and just kind of have, some rough patches. So, I hope things kind of improve there, but I guess time will tell. And then another player, I didn't want to forget about him, Indiana Vasilev. Just wanted to give a little shout out here as well, just because he was a player that with Aston Villa getting some substitute appearances previously, in the Premier League, and now obviously with Burton Albion there in the third tier in England League One. So again, I think a player who's still trying to find his way and find his feet, starting regularly. So he is still getting those kind of bench and substitute appearances, but I think somebody that we have to keep on the radar here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he would be a good shout as a player to watch for the future. If he did get called up, it would kind of be in the vein of, Owen Atasawi or like Johnny Cardoso, maybe, where, this is a player that in normal conditions where we could call in everyone that we wanted, he might not get the call. But in a camp like this where, we're trying to take some risks on some players and just kind of showcase our talent, I guess, to whoever's watching, and also just trying to get some younger players into the pool and get some fresh blood in. I think he would have been a pretty decent player to call up. So I think with that, Pat, we're going to pivot now to kind of our 3 things to watch for this game. I know each of us have kind of 3 things we've prepared. So I guess I'll lead the way here. So the first thing I want to, thing to watch for these 2 games are who steps up at striker in replace of Josh Sargent. So is it going to be Sebastian Soto? Is it going to be Nick Gioacchini? Or is it going to be, Sebastian Lletget in some sort of way or role, or someone else? But, I think it's got to be one of those other 2 players. And for me, it's Sebastian Soto. What we saw at Telstar, and like you said earlier, Pat, that poacher instinct, that striker mentality when he's in the box to just finish any ball that comes to him. I think him working in tandem with some of the other attackers who he already has some chemistry with, like Tim Weah, Conrad De La Fuente, YAAs, I think he would be the player that we'll throw out there. And then, I hope we see Nick at some point. But if I had to pick one of the 2, I think I'd go with Sebastian right from the start.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout, Austin. Both just players that are. I can't wait to see him battle it out. There's nothing more to say about that, Austin, just because they both offer different pieces to the table there, and I think could be the future here. We'll have to see.
Yeah, very true. And to go on to my second point, so the second thing I'll be watching in these 2 games is will Yunus Musa or Johnny Cardoso see the field? So I think with Musa, he's a player that in order to continue to woo him, I think we really got to get him on the field and some game time. And I also think he warrants it. When you look at him in comparison to some of the other players in this camp and what he's doing at Valencia right now, I think the talent is definitely there. Obviously, he's still a very raw player, but he's someone that, in my opinion, is like I said earlier, like on the same wavelength as Gio Reyna, as like an early Christian Pulisic, even the same type of talent as Serginho Dest. So I think he's gotta see the field, and that I'm hopeful of that. And Johnny Cardoso, this is another player that, like you said earlier, Pat, again, in Brazil, we've seen him be that distributor. We've also seen him, be a pretty solid defensive midfielder and battle it out with people in midfield. So I think if you see both these players on the pitch, it really is a testament to the work they did in this camp and, what they showed Greg Berhalter over the week and a half to get that game time. So what do you think? You think we'll see both these players or one of them maybe in these 2 games?
I think if I could have it my way, Austin, it'd be both. I know you have to have Musa there. You especially like that you just mentioned. It's a very interesting situation. A player with a lot of stock on the rise, and you have to get him some game time and kind of show him the picture, not only in camp but on the field and how it translates. So I'm really hoping things go well, and he makes some connections with some of the players there, and build some good chemistry, and you see some of the combinations there out in the field. So important. But Johnny again. Is a player again that's, like I mentioned, is killing it in Internacional, over in Brazil. So I'd love to see him get some time. I wouldn't be surprised, Austin, in the second game if he kind of comes on as a substitute, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I really hope we see both of them, Pat. It'll be so much fun, especially with the new jerseys too. You know, they got
Oh yeah.
the nice. I like the white ones out of the two. So yeah, it'll be cool to see that. The final thing I'll be watching in these two games is who will be John Brooks' center back partner. So I know for all our YAA fans and you know, all fans of young players, you know, young USMNT players, you know, the easy choice and the hopeful choice would be Chris Richards. So you know, part of me is on board with that. I'd love to see Chris kind of step up and take command of that center back position. But Pat, again, kind of like we said earlier, Matt Miazga has really done a good job honing his game over the past few years on loan in that Chelsea loan army. And I really think he can be the player for us going forward in World Cup qualifying. And you know, hopefully Chris Richards kind of takes over for him or steps up if John Brooks gets injured, something like that. But I do think, you know, in this camp, it's kind of Matt Miazga's a job to win. So yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there. You know, again, he's just really performing at a really solid level for Anderlecht, and just some of those tumultuous times he's had, and you know, points where we thought he was kind of going to be off the radar. And obviously, this is a European-based camp, and I think this is pretty crucial for him. I'm not going to lie. I mean, like exactly what you mentioned. I think he really needs to impress and make an impact, because you know, when you have the full you know, domestic and European-based, you know, there's a lot to look at, and you know, he could be you know, on the fringe there. But like you mentioned, you know, Chris offers so much going forward. We're so hopeful as well, and all that he can, you know, learn and develop from being around Brooks and Miazga, and even, you know, all the players together. I think just to have Richards in the fold and continue to evolve at Bayern Munich, I think we're going to see some great things from him going forward.
Yeah, and it's good to see him in this camp, right, Pat? Like, this is what we want to see. We don't want to see him, you know, with the U20s anymore, with the
Right.
team. Like, maybe if it needs to happen, but we really want to see him get integrated with the squad, and this is the perfect time to kind of do that.
Absolutely. So I guess from my end, you know, the three things, Austin, you know, want to start off with, you know, starting in the back. Let's go there to the outside backs there. You know, with Anthony Robinson and Serginho Dest and Reggie Cannon. You know, there's a few players there. So obviously, you know, will we see, you know, Anthony Robinson, you know, starting there on the left? I know he had some flack online there, or during that Sarah Ken era, when he kind of came in and was still, you know, in that championship level and figuring things out. But he's come a long way since then. You know, like you mentioned at the start of this episode, being in the Premier League and putting in some, you know, solid performances, and, you know, growing over that past year, as well as, you know, you have Serginho Dest in a strong spot on the right, you know, making that Barca move we've talked about, and you know, how he can offer so much going forward, and the tricks and creativity one-on-one, and you know, just the yeah, just that, again, that typical fullback that just, you know, moves forward and makes a huge impact. So you also have Cannon, who, you know, offers a very similar, you know, athleticism, can get forward, has really shown some of that skill with Bovis to be able to track back, tactically aware, but knows when to pick his spots going forward and get in some of those great crosses and great balls. So, you know, I want to get your thoughts, Austin. Do you see a, you know, Anthony left Dest, or would you, you know, maybe move Dest over to the left and you know, put Cannon starting on the right?
Yeah, that's a big not problem, but that's a big question mark, I think, coming into this camp. And it's interesting because you only have those three fullbacks in this camp. So I guess if you look at Tim Ream as a left back, then he's there too. But you know, personally, I think we do one game of each. So I think for Wales, we'll put, you know, Anthony Robinson on the left and Serginho Dest on the right, and kind of see how it works. You know, Anthony should be more comfortable with the type of players. You know, it's a Wales team that plays pretty much predominantly in the Premier League. So I think it would be the perfect kind of combination to get him back in with the USMNT, because this is the first time since, I think, before that Gold Cup that he's with the full national team. So I think for that game we do that, and then for the Panama game we kind of move Serginho over to the left and throw Reggie Cannon in and get some play time. So yeah, that's what I think. What do you think?
I like that. I'm complete agreement. I think to start, I would love to see Anthony on the left, Des on the right in his preferred spot. But like exactly like you mentioned, you got to get Ken on the field. He made a pretty solid move, and I think there's more to come from him. I believe he's 22. Correct me if I'm wrong, Austin. And he's still
I believe
pretty
so.
pretty
Yeah.
young there, Reggie, and performing here and get more eyes on him in Europe and playing in a really competitive league. And I think just having some solid games against the top tier teams over there at Benfica and those other ones. So I think you're exactly right there. So I'll move on to number two, and talk about the player that we've all come to know and love, and almost seems like even though he hasn't really been a part of the senior team really, is just kind of coming in with these high expectations and just somebody that looks like he can fill that role right alongside a Captain America and be another Avenger or something. But that's Gio Reyna, Austin. So do we see that role? He has that versatility. Excuse me. We've seen at Dortmund kind of play the more tucked in centrally and kind of link up play, and as well as kind of getting out wide on the flank and cutting in. So do we see him kind of in that number 10 type role, or do we see him obviously listed as a forward? Does Greg see him more on that wing? Kind of cutting in. It would also be so many dangerous options. So I think there's a lot of expectation for Gio here coming in.
Yeah, and it's really weird to say that because the dude's only 17 and
Right.
18 shortly. But yeah, it really does seem like that. I think he does fit the build when you think of a playmaker for our team. He's got to be kind of one of the players we rely on to if he's not scoring, then at least creating. And I think it's really cool too to think about him at the youth level, where some people would say he was kind of a one-man show at times, where he was very ball dominant and kind of like to take his shots, like to take a lot of the free kicks, penalties, things of that nature, which is kind of what we're missing right now. Christian Pulisic does that at times for Chelsea and has done that for us in the past, but Christian hasn't been the best penalty kick taker. We really don't have a free kick taker at the moment. So I think if Gio can come right in, establish himself and be a vocal leader at 17, then I think that's really exciting, and just another kind of jewel to add to the crown that we're slowly building, Pat. Slowly building,
Austin. I don't want to get too far ahead, but one day it will happen. I think all you fans know. But but yeah, again, just the last point here, number 3. Just really intrigued and interested, not only formation wise, but Greg Berhalter's tactics coming in. Like I said, it's felt like years, it felt like decades. I don't even know what you want to put it with coronavirus, that we've really seen this team come together. And how does he kind of approach these friendlies? Wales, like you said, a lot of players play in the Premier League. So there's a lot of high level players there, and even Gareth Bale, I believe, being called in. So do you come out aggressive? Kind of that that pressing style that we come to see with a lot of teams now. You have some of these players, obviously, playing in certain systems. Like you said, Musa, if he starts or comes on, aggressive player. McKennie with Juventus there, and then even having those outside backs. Robinson, Des, Cannon, really bomb up the flanks there and intertwine, whether it's with, YAAs, Conrad, Reyna, even if he's playing on the flank there, a healthy Pulisic. But you know what I mean? There's just a lot of different options you could go with formation and tactically, where, there's just so much to do and there's so much excitement. And that's why I almost couldn't even, Austin, say definitive formation or roster prediction, because there's so many different players that could play, whether it's centrally or out in the flanks. So kind of want to get your thoughts too, and how they'll approach these friendlies.
Yeah, sorry, Pat. I got so excited I turned my internet off for a second. So
You're good.
you're talking about Gio and where he's going to play on the field?
Yeah, just Gio as well as the other players. The tactics and formations there, Austin. So
okay.
I'm just curious if we're going to see a full pressed against Wales, or are we going to see them kind of sit back and play? Unfortunately, we've come to see that American kickball, but not able to possess? I know some of these players are new coming together, but will he want to be aggressive in his approach?
Yeah, I think from what we've come to know about Greg, I think he's going to be the same type of Greg that we've seen, and that's really playing out of the back. He will press at times and have our players kind of push the tempo, but I really think he's going to try and play possession against Wales and Panama. I think Wales will be a pretty big challenge. They called in Gareth Bale. I believe Aaron Ramsey's on the field too, or in the camp with some other exciting players that they have. So yeah, we'll see. A full strength roster from this camp should be able to stand up against Wales and at least hold the ball and be very competitive with that team. But if you throw some of these younger guys on the pitch, especially if Christian Pulisic's not ready to go, without Josh Sargent, it might be a little tough up top too. Then yeah, we might have to sit back a little bit, play a little bit more defensive. But at the end of the day, these are friendlies, and it's really just more data points, I guess, for the World Cup qualifiers coming up, because that's honestly the biggest thing we got to focus on.
I'm just so excited, Austin. So excited.
Yeah, right. It's exciting. I mean, this is the first camp, in my opinion, that we've really that you can really feel the energy around this group, which is exciting because we're still 2 years away from the 2022 World Cup, which is going to happen in kind of the winter time. So yeah, I think you're going to see the same Greg, for better or for worse.
Right. So nothing drastic, you say, and I think I completely agree with you there. Even though you have these new sets of players, and maybe like you said, Pulisic and Sargent not being involved potentially, where obviously Sargent wouldn't be, but nonetheless, I guess you can't have too many extreme tinkering or do anything like play Sargent defensively to cause too many disruptions. So I'm in complete agreement with you there on the the format and the tactics. So like you said, I'm just really excited to see whether it's I wouldn't even be surprised, to see maybe Conrad start in the flank, with some of those options and opportunities, and intertwined, whether it's Reyna, tucking in or out in the flank, making way for Musa to get in there in the midfield with McKennie. There's so many options.
Yeah, it really is limitless up top, and really wide open without Pulisic, because you don't think he's going to play against Wales, right? If Chelsea's not playing him, there's no way he's going to play that game. So yeah, I think the options are kind of unlimited at the moment, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens on Thursday, right? November 12th.
That's right. Yeah, this Thursday coming up. Take some time off of work or school or anything, and block out some time.
Yeah, with working from home now, it doesn't even matter. You can just put the game on while you work. But yeah, with that being said, now let's throw it over to Quick Kicks.
All right, guys, after that exciting roster release and talking about those players, we still have that last segment to take care of here. I think you know what time it is. I know Austin knows what time it is. Excuse me.
That's right.
It's none other than Quick Kicks.
So you can test Dwayne Miller. It's Altidore over the wall, and that one is in! Josie Altidore from a long way out. The opening goal for the United States.
All right, guys, and to start off Quick Kicks, we're heading over to Italy with Juventus and Weston McKennie coming on in the 77th minute in a 1-1 draw against Lazio.
And going over to Germany, we have Gio Reyna. So Gio started and played 77 minutes for Dortmund against Club Brugge in their UCL game midweek. And then over the weekend, he played 69 minutes for Dortmund in their game against Bayern Munich, their Klassiker. And that was in a 3-2 loss.
And we're going to head over to Spain with Serginho Dest, Austin. He actually started in last midweek in a Champions League game in a 2-1 win against Dynamo Kiev. But he did not play this weekend, in the game against Alaves for Barcelona.
And then we have our newest YAA, and that's Yunus Musa. So Yunus started and played 87 minutes for Valencia in their 4-1 win against Real Madrid. And in this game, Yunus actually scored, but then had the goal disallowed for encroachment off a penalty rebound that he put away. But then later in the game, he actually drew another penalty. So, still making a big impact.
That's quite a game, Austin. And heading over to the Netherlands here with Richie Ledesma. Last Thursday in the Europa League, actually came on in the 83rd minute in a 3-1 loss. But this weekend he did make the bench, but did not play for PSV.
Yeah, I saw that. And going over to Germany, we have Tyler Adams. So Tyler played 14 minutes for Leipzig midweek in their 2-1 win over PSG. And then over the weekend, he came on for the final 8 minutes in Leipzig's 3-0 win over Freiburg. So, not too much game time for Tyler, but he's well rested for the USMNT.
That's right, Austin. And, we're going over to France with Timo or Tim Weah. He subbed on in the 76th minute. It's great to see him get some minutes here in a 3-2 loss for Lille against Brest. So again, it's nice to see him get minutes. It's very competitive. And again, another player we're excited to see at the U.S. camp here.
And going back to Germany, we have Josh Sargent. So Josh started and played all 90 minutes in Bremen's 1-1 draw with Cologne.
And in France with Caen, we have Nico Gioacchini subbed on in the 80th minute, Austin, and even scored in the 90-plus stoppage time, the game winner in a 2-1 win against Nancy.
And going back to Germany again, we have Matthew Hope. So Matthew came on for the final 9 minutes in Schalke 2's 2-1 win. So good to see Matt still getting on the field.
Nice, Austin. And heading over to Boavista, the Boavista boy, Reggie Cannon. He started and played the full 90. An unfortunate 3-1 loss there.
And going over to Denmark, we have Emmanuel Sabi, who started and played 71 minutes in Odense Bold Club's unfortunate 3-1 loss.
And some exciting news here with Rotterdam United there, and Matthew Olusunde. He made his first start in England and went the full 89 minutes, in a 2-1 win against Preston North End. He also, Austin, got an assist and was named man of the match. So fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good to see him. What was that? The first start in the championship. So good for him.
Right.
And then we have Andrea Novakovic over in Italy, who played the final 33 minutes for Frosinone in their 2-0 loss.
And next, we move on to Luca De La Torre with Heracles, and they did unfortunately lose 3-2 to VVV Venlo, a team we're very familiar with, but he did start and play the full 90.
And speaking of VVV Venlo, we have Haji Wright, who started and played the full 90 minutes and also scored a goal in his team's 3-0 win. And we also want to mention he was also voted the Danish Superliga Player of the Month for October. So really good to see that from Haji, who's really taken to life over in Denmark.
I like how you tied that in, Austin. It's great for Haji Wright. But now we're moving to EPB over with Austria and Austria Wien.
Another VVV Venlo.
That's right. That's right. How could I almost forget there? They drew there against Altaj 0-0, but he did go the full 90, so he's getting consistent minutes.
Yeah, good to see him in Austria now. I feel like life's going a little bit better than that one season.
Oh, yeah.
And staying with center backs, we have Matt Miazga, who started and played 90 minutes for Anderlecht in their 1-1 draw with Ghent. So good to see Matt continuing to get starting minutes for Anderlecht.
Nice, that's great. And we're heading over to Spain there in the second division with Shaq Moore, really finding himself starting the lineup here now. Played the full 90 in Tenerife's win against Zaragoza. So again, nice to see him make an impact. And
in England, we have Hassan Ayari, who scored 2 goals again for Sheffield United's U18s, and that was in a 3-3 draw. And now to finish out our episode today, we have our young YAAs. So the first one is Rokas Pukstas, a 16-year-old midfielder who just signed his first pro contract for a team in the Croatian First Division, Hajduk Split. So the Croatian, First Division has several teams that you probably know, including Dinamo Zagreb. So this is a pretty nice a team he's at the moment. And we just wanted to mention, too, he'll still be with their academy team, but this contract allows him to potentially train with the first team and hopefully get some game time in the future. So good for him.
That's awesome, Austin. And to wrap up the young YAAs, the last one here is Karauskubab Bobby Pierre, the 18-year-old, center back from the RSL Academy, now heading over to France with Strasbourg. So great move there, and wishing all the luck and all the best to Bobby.
So that's all for episode today, guys. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel down below.
And make sure to check out Instagram, Twitter. We have all that consistent content going out to you daily. There's a lot of news to report on, so keep your eyes out.
That's right. And we also have a podcast form of this episode as well. So check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and what's the last one? Spotify. Spotify.
So many options. So many options.
Exactly. So make sure you subscribe to us on those platforms. Leave us a review. We appreciate your feedback. And I think one more thing, Pat, too, we got to mention. We're doing a jersey giveaway this week. So last week we had the Gio Reyna shirt, the campaign shirt that we gave away. And special thanks to Participation Trophy Studios for helping us out with that. But this week we have a USMNT jersey we're giving away. So make sure you stay tuned to our Instagram and Twitter for that and kind of the details and rules for that giveaway. And what else, Pat? What else are we doing this week?
Yeah, we got a lot, especially with these, the friendlies, this Thursday here, obviously Wales, and then even, Panama on Monday. So, if all goes well, there's some action excitement there. We'll certainly have some nice, quick uploads for you guys. Those instant reactions to make sure, we kind of go through brief analysis of what we saw and what our thoughts are. But again, if we're seeing something where 4 penalty kicks, Wales wins, or 0-0, not much action, Austin, then we'll let you guys know. Maybe we'll forgo one of those friendlies there.
Yeah, I think that'll be fair too. I don't think anyone would want to hear about like a
right.
USMNT unless it's really bad. But let's hope it's not that. I think with that being said, Pat, that leaves one more phrase to be uttered, and that is, one day we will win the World Cup.